tonight, fish protesters barge into a news conference with the federal environment minister and take over the microphone. That story. And
I didn't sign up for this for light rolls. I signed up for this job for heavy rolls.
And I think it just shows his arrogance.
People in these backbenches, are they not capable of stepping forward and taking on a cabinet post?
John Hogan is now in charge of another department. I'm Arlette Lazarenko, and I'll tell you what critics are saying about it.
She did not want, she said, I don't want to waste away to nothing.
He said, I'm as bad as I can stand to be, and it's just going to get worse from here.
More and more people in the province are considering medically assisted death. Mark Quinn brings us that feature report.
St. John's Pride is underway, and this year there was an extra special display of love.
Let's hear a big woo hoo for Marilyn!
If you love who you love, then it should be welcome anywhere. I'll have that story coming up on Here and Now.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Cod fishery protesters burst into a news conference with the federal environment minister this afternoon, blaring sirens, waving signs, and taking over the podium.
I kind of think it's ridiculous that we got to be here and doing this today. I kind of think that things could be straightened out a lot easier than what we got to be out here today.
Well, Fish Food and Allied Workers Union President Greg Pretty, along with other harvesters, voiced their anger over government's decision to allow foreign trawlers to harvest cod in the province's offshore. The protesters crashed an event with environment ministers from several provinces and territories who are meeting in St. John's. They're demanding a meeting with the Prime Minister and a reversal of the decision to reopen the commercial cod fishery.
What DFO has done, what the government of Canada has done here, is transferred a resource that, as Glenn said, we took 32 years to nourish. We have a paltry sum of 18,000 tons, and the government sees fit to introduce draggers back on the fishing grounds, for God's sakes. And in addition to that, it's NAFO coming back, the Russians are coming back, the Portuguese are coming back. The Spaniards are coming back to fish on our grounds, to tow across those grounds. That's the lifeblood of Newfoundland. It will not stand. We are asking for meetings with the Prime Minister to get this thing fixed.
Well, Justice Minister John Hogan is taking on new duties this week. He now holds two of government's biggest portfolios. As Here and Now's Arlette Lazarenko reports, the opposition is raising concerns about one person having all of that responsibility.
Here at Confederation Building, John Hogan wears a lot of hats. He's Minister of Justice, Attorney General, and Government House Leader. Oh, and the Access to Information Office is his responsibility. Now he's the interim health minister. He says this is what he signed up for.
I didn't sign up for this for light rolls. I signed up for this job for heavy rolls, and to be given this opportunity right now, I take very seriously, and I want the people of Newfoundland and Labrador to understand that as I'm in these roles for however long it is, they'll get my full work effort towards them.
But NDP health critic Leela Evans says there's too much going on in both departments. Hogan, she claims, is too confident.
And I think it just shows his arrogance, that, you know, he's really out of touch with reality if he thinks he can juggle both of them. And it's not that Justice is a smart portfolio. Justice is in crisis too.
When Tom Osborne stepped out of politics, leaving the health department behind, Premier Andrew Furey had time and choices.
The Minister of Health, you know, notified the Premier that he was stepping down. Then we would look at all the ministers, which minister would be the best, the most competent that could take on this role. And if it means shuffling portfolios, shuffle the portfolios. But when we look at the crisis in our province right now, healthcare is probably number one.
Opposition health critic for the PCs, Barry Patton, says doubling up is a bad decision.
What about people in these backbenches? Are they not capable of stepping forward and taking on a cabinet post? Because it sends a bad message to people that's not in your cabinet, in his own caucus. Department of Health will suffer, but if you're talking about Department of Health suffering, I think the people in the waiting rooms and emergency rooms waiting for MRIs, they will suffer. Because that's where recruitment, because you don't have the same attention being paid to it. And ultimately the minister is accountable. So I think it's a big miss on the Premier's part.
Inside the health system, there's concern about balancing a healthcare crisis with Justice Department issues, and a concern that in all that juggling, something will be dropped.
It's not a department that should be ran off the corner of someone's desk. It's a massive service. It really it takes us aback and leaves us with a lot of questions as to why this government wouldn't see fit to have a full-time Minister of Health and Community Services. It's a vital department, touches the lives of everyone in this province.
As for his plans for the health department, Hogan says he will carry on the work of Tom Osborne and the Premier's vision. Arlette Lazarenko, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, when it comes to medical assistance in dying, this province has the lowest rate in the country. One St. John's family believes that's a shame, saying it was a gift that gave their mother and her loved ones a painless and peaceful end. Here Now's Mark Quinn has that story in this special feature report.
Louise Moyes looks back on her mother's life, grateful for the time they spent together and thinking about how it ended.
I was the person that fed her last meal. I mean, that is a beautiful thing, to care for your mother who cared for you.
Louise's mother, Magda Moyes, was born in England in 1938. It was there that she met her husband, John Moyes.
They danced. My mom was my dad's ballroom teacher when they were 17. That's how they met. My mom was my dad's ballroom teacher. So they danced right into their 80s.
They came to Newfoundland in 1964 and started a family, Jonathan and Louise, and eventually Rebecca. Louise says Magda and John Moyes were always on the go.
My parents had a very active life well into their 80s. They traveled. They would come to France with us. We would all go to England to visit family. They went every year, Mom and Dad.
But Magda Moyes' health took a turn in 2020, a cancer diagnosis that eventually became untreatable. Which
was a big surprise. You just think, oh, Mom is so healthy. She's always been so healthy, never smoked, hardly drank. And then that was the beginning of a year and a half of treatment and quite a bit of suffering for her.
Louise Moyes says her mother advocated for medical assistance in dying decades ago, long before it had a name and long before MAID became legal in Canada in 2016. So when her mother asked to apply for MAID, she wasn't surprised at all.
Not a bit. My mom was always pragmatic. She was always the administrator. And but also, it wasn't just a matter of practicality. It was, she said, I don't want to waste away to nothing and in pain.
You have to have an enduring condition that causes suffering as determined by the patient, and that isn't amenable to being improved by any means that's acceptable to the patient. So most of the time that's fairly straightforward when you see it. So the vast majority of cases, I'd say 90, maybe even 95% of cases, are very straightforward.
Dr. Aaron McKim is this province's Director for Medical Assistance in Dying. For him, helping patients in the last days of their lives is deeply meaningful work.
I think a lot of us go into healthcare because of that connection that we get with people and that ability to assist people through difficult situations. You know, and this is one of the very special and sacred times in somebody's life.
Demand for MAID is growing in Newfoundland and Labrador. In 2021, there were 69 requests for MAID. In 2022, 107 people applied. The next year, 2023, there were 111 requests. More than half of the requests come from people living with the pain of terminal cancer.
I had one patient say to me, he put it very succinctly, he said, "I'm as bad as I can stand to be, and it's just going to get worse from here." And, you know, in cases like that, sometimes it's a comfort to patients to know that they have another option.
For Louise Moyes and her family, the experience with MAID was overwhelmingly positive.
So she was able to come to that peace where she could say, I have had the best life I could possibly have. I have a wonderful husband, beautiful children, grandchildren. I did all these things. I've traveled. I've had a very full life.
It's hard to say goodbye to loved ones, but Magda Moyes did it on her own terms, leaving her family with a measure of peace.
She knew what she wanted to wear. We did her eyebrows and her lipstick, and she said she wanted us to sing the Beatles' "All You Need Is Love" as she went out, as she died. So the doctor came in very gently, said, "Mrs. Moyes, are you still wanting this procedure?" And she smiled, so grateful. Yes, I'm ready. And she said goodbye, and we started singing. We started singing, and we were crying and smiling, and that's what we do most. No, but as a family, we sang and danced together all the time. And then she gave a big yawn, and then she was gone, so peaceful.
Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, fire destroyed one building and caused significant damage at a business in the Goulds this afternoon. It happened at Rise and Shine Nursery and Garden Centre and spread to nearby buildings. One witness described the fire as massive but quick to die down.
Well, initially we got our call for this at 13:03. The call came in as a structure fire at one of the buildings, number 825 Main Road in the Goulds, which is the Rise and Shine Nursery. Our first crew arrived on the scene, and one of the buildings here was fully engulfed. Initial attack was surround and protect the structures adjacent to the building that was on fire. When our arriving crews showed up, we got water supply, and we managed to get extra lines on this to knock down the initial fire.
Any injuries today?
No injuries. The building that burned down was being worked in, but all persons in that building got out. Yes, the building is a total loss. We're right now in the middle of doing overhaul and trying to get the hotspots. There were a few other greenhouses that did get a bit of fire damage, but we were able to keep those from burning.
A little over 30 minutes ago, Marine Atlantic's newest ferry departed North Sydney for Argentia, but it's not all smooth sailing. This marks the official launch of the Alisuinu, which has been delayed multiple times due to mechanical issues. Upwards of 7,000 passengers were affected by those cancellations, which saw people rerouted to Port aux Basques, 850 kilometers away from the Argentia port. Well, today, Marine Atlantic announced more cancellations for next week on the 17th and 18th of July. So anyone traveling on those days will be rerouted through the Gulf service to Port aux Basques. That's because Marine staff need 2 additional days to complete necessary safety training on the new vessel. The travel authority says customers will be contacted with their new reservation and compensation details. Marine Atlantic issued this statement today apologizing to all customers impacted by the changing schedules. It's encouraging people to call or head to Marine Atlantic's website to make any alternative arrangements.
Well, thunderstorms have been the story for the past 3 days, and yesterday there was some activity for the West Coast, and we had a viewer send us some of these photos of a tree that was struck by lightning in Corner Brook. And here's another photo of it there. You can see where the lightning did some damage. So we've had quite a bit of thunderstorm activity out there. Still seeing a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for Terra Nova as well as the Bonavista Peninsula. And if I show you the radar, there was quite a bit of rain falling. We saw these storms move through central, through parts of Gander. Eastport now working their way through to the Bonavista Peninsula. If I stop the radar there, we can see where we're seeing some lightning strikes. So there's not a whole lot of lightning left with this system, but there is still quite a bit of rain. Now, I did see some reports of some small hail in Terra Nova, so don't be surprised, but they are starting to lose a little bit of steam. Like I I said, but there's certainly still some of that thunder and lightning activity expected over the next hour or so. I'll get into all the details coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, the St. John's Pride Festival kicked off today with a flag-raising ceremony in front of City Hall. The annual tradition often draws a crowd, and today's occasion was no exception. Here Now's Heather Gillis was there as a couple tied the knot.
Let's hear a big woo-hoo for Mel and Ellie!
Allie James and Mel Collins always planned to get married on July 10th. It's the day they met and began talking. A love story starting out like any other.
We couldn't stop talking to each other.
We haven't stopped it.
We still haven't stopped talking to each other. It was within 24 hours. It's like, are we best friends? I think we are. Yeah. And then within a month, we were professing love.
We've all loved in our lifetimes, and in this moment, let us all truly be reminded that the ability to love is the very best part of our humanity.
The pair tied the knot right after the pride flag was raised over St. John's City Hall, a wedding day coincidence meant to be.
A friend of mine reached out and he asked me to volunteer with Pride. I said I can't this year. Actually, it turned out I'm getting married on the flag raising. I said we're getting married at City Hall, and he goes, conveniently, there's a flag raising at City Hall. Do you think? And I said, yeah.
St. John's Mayor Danny Breen raised the flag, a beacon flying high over the city for the LGBTQ+ community. Organizer Eddie Sancour is encouraging others to fly the flag too.
Putting up a pride flag on your street, on your house, on your business isn't so much a signal that you're sending about yourself. It's sending a signal out to people in your community when they see that they know that they're safe, that they know that the people that are in that building are people who respect who they are and that they believe in their fundamental right to exist as peoples.
Meanwhile, Allie and Mel are happy to have the flag raising as a part of their wedding day.
Because it just shows that love is love. It shows that it's as important whether you feel it for a man, a woman, anyone else. If you love who you love, then it should be welcome anywhere.
It's because we haven't always had this privilege and this honor to be able to do so, and I feel so lucky that not only do I get to live in such a time that I can, but in such a beautiful place that is so accepting.
St. John's Pride festivities will happen over 11 days, but for Allie and Mel, this day is just the beginning of a new chapter in their love story. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Let's hear a big woo-hoo for Mel and Ellie!
Heading to Labrador West now, where the local MHA wants to see more options for affordable housing. As Here and Now's Daryl Din reports, the minister responsible says the work is underway.
The NDP is questioning the province's housing plan for low-income residents across the province, especially here in Labrador West. The area's MHA feels not enough new units are being built in the region.
Well, you just look at here in Lab West, we have, a number of people on a wait list, but out of all the units that have been allocated, we're only getting 2 additional units on top of the 5 that are being repaired, but it's still not going to be able to fix the issue that we're having here when it comes to the wait list and people trying to seek housing.
Government says 4 new units are being built. Brown counters that it's really only 2 new units, as 2 other units were destroyed in a fire 2 years ago.
We're going to release tenders in just a little while. The release said 2, but it's actually 4. We're building 4. And we've got tenders out to renovate and repair others. Currently, there's 5 vacancies in Lab West, and we're continuing to work very hard to try to get those repaired.
Developers in other parts of the province are using government incentives to build, but there's been little interest to build in Labrador West, so Brown wants the government to step in.
But there is no real talk with Newfoundland and Labrador Housing, or no appetite with Newfoundland and Labrador to actually increase their stock in Labrador West, which is absolutely disappointing, seeing as there's no private market here interested in constructing low barrier affordable units here in Lab West.
Proof of the lack of private interest came up when Newfoundland and Labrador Housing recently posted tenders for Labrador West. There were 0 bids.
We recently put out a tender to have 2 that were vacant for a long period of time, 2 renovated, and we didn't get any responses back whatsoever. So we're going to have to re-tender those and work for the others and issue the tender for the construction of the 4.
Currently, there are 24 applicants on the waiting list in Labrador West. One issue is that Newfoundland and Labrador Housing have more 3-bedroom houses, while most on the waiting list are looking for 1- or 2-bedroom units.
And the vast majority of our inventory that was built 50, 60 years ago were built when families were different. They were bigger. And the biggest demand is 1-bedroom units or 2-bedroom.
The emergency homeless shelter in Labrador City has 3 beds, and that too has a waiting list.
Is there any plans to expand that?
Yes, there is. Yep, there's a plan to expand.
Do you know how many beds?
Another 3 beds.
Brown would like to see Newfoundland and Labrador housing go back to its old mandate.
They would go back to their old mandate and actually provide affordable and safe housing for the people of this province, because right now they haven't really done much of that in the last number of years.
With the tenders about to go out for the new and existing units, those in Labrador West looking for a home will have to wait a bit longer. Daryl Din, CBC News, Labrador City.
Well, for some, it's a case of unknown identity. For others, their family members are unable to afford a funeral. Government documents show the problem of unclaimed bodies at the province's largest hospital is growing. However, the provincial government is staying silent on the situation. Elizabeth Whitten has that story.
At the Health Sciences Centre, unclaimed bodies are piling up. For months, 4 freezers sat in a loading zone next to the dumpsters at the hospital. Inside were 28 unclaimed bodies. Newly released documents show how that number has climbed dramatically in a short amount of time. An access to information request filed by the NDP shows in the last year the number of unclaimed bodies has more than doubled. In the fall of 2020, there were 12 unclaimed bodies. But by January of this year, that number was recorded at 27. NDP Labrador West MHA Jordan Brown says the documents show how morgue overcapacity is a long-standing problem, one the government knew and didn't act on.
They've known for years that this was a problem. They knew, they had all the data, they had all the information, but chose not to do anything about it.
Funeral companies first raised alarms with several government departments about this in 2016, but the problem only got worse. CBC News has repeatedly asked Children, Seniors and Development Minister Paul Pike for an interview. His staff have declined. For now, the health authority is preparing an expanded facility to store unclaimed remains inside a hospital parking garage.
That seems to be the disturbing part that comes out of all of this, is that there's no real compassion, there's no real, thought to the loved ones that these remains belong to. It's just that how many can we store and how big of a facility can we build to store the remains, and that's the disturbing part of all this.
For Brown, it's a sign this problem isn't going away or being dealt with at its root cause, the cost of a funeral. Elizabeth Whitten, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, police in Happy Valley Goose Bay are appealing to the public for help reuniting a family with a stolen urn. The theft happened late last month when a camper at Goose River Lodge's campground was broken into. The campsite is located on Route 520 between Goose Bay and Shehajit. A number of items were taken, including a small glass urn that holds the ashes of a woman's deceased son. The urn is in the shape of a skull and is sealed with purple wax. The owner believes it was likely taken by someone who didn't realize the significance of the item. Anyone with information is asked to contact the RCMP or Crime Stoppers, and they can do so anonymously. Shifting to some sports news now, a former front office staffer with the Newfoundland Growlers now has a big job with Hockey Canada. Trevor Murphy was hired as the vice president of hockey development. The Mount Pearl man had been with the 2025 Canada Games Host Society and a former president of the Newfoundland Growlers. Murphy will help lead the director of hockey development across the country. His new job starts next week. And it was the biggest game in Canadian men's soccer history, but the red and white came up a little short against the defending World Cup champions. Argentina bested Canada 2-0 in front of more than 80,000 fans in New Jersey last night. But the Copa American Cup journey isn't over for the Canadian men. The team will play for bronze against the loser of tonight's match between Colombia and Uruguay. Well, our video journalist in Gander, Troy Turner, captured some wild weather in Central earlier this afternoon. Thunder and lightning, as well as a downpouring of rain, with Gander's Environment Canada's Weather Office saying that 14 millimeters of rain fell in just an hour this afternoon.
Yeah, and that rain was why you were seeing those severe watches, the severe thunderstorm watches. And as we head through the next little bit, this system will continue to move through. I'll tell you all about it coming up.
Oh, Ashley, I'm still chuckling at myself for the flub before the break. Did you check out the Canada versus Argentina game last night?
It's easy to do.
No, yesterday I had a story about the ferries with Argentina and the Argentina versus Canada game. So, yeah, I got a little mixed up there. Anyways,
Maybe you get it in
funny
your
mistake.
head.
Yeah, totally did. Anyways, let's talk about the weather. Some incredible rainfalls today, and the photo that you showed earlier of the lightning strike on the tree, just incredible.
Yeah, there has been a lot of activity, a lot of thunderstorm activity out there, not only across the island, up across Labrador as well. Let's take a look at where we sat today. The heat and humidity is kind of acting as some fuel. So we've got some unsettled conditions, some instability in the atmosphere. And we've got a couple of troughs or some things in the upper atmosphere that are sparking some of these storms. Today, 24 degrees in St. John's, 28 in Badger, even Twillingate seeing a temperature around 27 this afternoon. Temperatures much cooler than yesterday up across Labrador, but you sat around 23 degrees rather in Happy Valley Goose Bay today. Let's take a look at what's going on with the current satellite and radar. So these storms are starting to lose a little bit of steam, a lot less lightning associated with them at the moment as well. But there is still some heavy rain that looks like it'll move across the Bonavista Peninsula over the next little bit. Just show you the closer look at that radar. So just tracking north of Port Blandford, and then we'll eventually head over the Bonavista Peninsula. Again, just a little bit of lightning associated with this one, but you can still expect over the next little bit to see some of that heavier rainfall. That severe thunderstorm watch still in effect. I do think after this, though, that should end, kind of just like last night. And then as far as Labrador goes, we do have a little bit of a line of thunderstorms developing just to the west here of Happy Valley Goose Bay, and that will track over as well. Now, there isn't a whole lot of lightning associated with this, but there is some showers, so you may hear a few rumbles of thunder again over the next hour or so. As far as what's happening right now, temperature-wise, there is still quite a bit of humidity out there. It's 24 in St. John's, feels more like 31. And we've got humidity through Gander, feels more like 32. Even Corner Brook sitting at 20. It's feeling like 29 degrees right now. Not so much up across the Big Land, but the humidity will return in the long-range forecast. It is, however, going to stick around for Newfoundland. We'll see a bit of a dip in the humidity through Thursday night, but it'll really, as we head through the weekend and into next week, that humidity will slowly be on the climb as we get into Monday. Now, as far as what's going to happen tonight, that risk of thunderstorms, like I said, should end. However, I do think that southeastern portions of Labrador and potentially even the northern peninsula through the overnight may hear a few rumbles of thunder as this moves through, particularly in the early morning hours for the northern peninsula. And then we've got the remnants of Burl. That was tracking across Ontario, will eventually track across the Maritimes, and we may see some of those showers as well for the southern areas of the Avalon. As far as temperatures go for tonight, 10 to about 16 degrees, so not as mild as it has been, but still quite mild. Up across Labrador, very different story for Nain, Cartwright, and Lab City, where you will sit in the single digits overnight. And here's what I was talking about with that rain. Now, most of the rain should stay well south of Newfoundland. However, you could see some showers through the first half of tomorrow, maybe even across the Avalon. But the trend in the afternoon should be to clear out. You may see a few more showers lingering, though, along the northeast coast with clouds moving in again late day. Not a whole lot happening up across Labrador as well, especially after you get through those showers in southeastern portions in the morning. Temperatures tomorrow will be a bit cooler than what we were seeing today. Teens or low 20s for most of us. Winds out of the west around 15 to 20 kilometers per hour. Again, that risk of some thunder and lightning up across the northern peninsula early tomorrow morning. Showers and maybe the risk of some thunderstorms again in the morning for those of you in southeastern Labrador. Otherwise, lots of sunshine, much more comfortable temperatures in the 20s, and the heat will return. I'll get into all that coming up.
Microwave, stereos, all kinds of stuff. Whatever people had in their houses years ago, when it gave out, some of them gave it a toss over the wharf, right?
We go underwater with Sean Bath as he dives deep to bring up tires and other cast-offs from the harbor in Brigus. The ocean is full of trash, everything from old fishing gear to plastics of all shapes and sizes just waiting under the waves. Tonight, we're taking you underwater for a closer look at what's below, down on the seabed of Brigus Harbor. We're tagging along with Sean Bath and his team at Clean Harbors Initiative as they get to the bottom of Brigus.
Well, we've been here over the years doing harbour cleanups. We've taken several truckloads of tires out of the harbour on this side of the wharf here. Last few times I dove here, we discovered probably another 20 tires out on the head of the wharf. That was out in deeper water, it was probably buried in silt at the time. So we're going to go down today now and get those and try to give her a thorough cleanup. Microwave, stereos, all kinds of stuff. Whatever people had in their houses years ago, when it gave out, some of them gave it a toss over the wharf, right? Most tires are tied on the wharves for bumpers, and over time the sun dry rots the rope that they're tied on with, and they fall in the water, of course, murder free. Rather than pay a diver to go down and get them and reuse them, people just go get a new one at the garage, right? In the last few years, a lot of the universities have been doing studies on the preservatives that are in car tires, and it's been proven to kill a lot of the salmon stocks in the rivers and pretty much any fish anywhere, right?
Well, it's just a very rewarding thing to do, especially when we're hauling up ghost gear and stuff, when we're hauling up nets and stuff that have like crab and lobster and fish tangled up in it, and you can get an opportunity to set those animals free. It's definitely a good feeling.
You see how black he is? There's a lot of rubber residue and stuff on him. Look, we got the tire out. We'll let him go now, and he'll be able to clean himself up. Ow! And pinch my finger.
Like, we're doing what we can to try to get out as much as we can, but I mean, we understand it's not going to be an everyday thing, not without government funding.
There was no federal ghost gear funding allotted out this year. So there's nobody in Newfoundland got any funding here for ghost gear. So what work we do here is going to be based on whether or not we sell any amount of tickets on a side-by-side after we get it paid off, right? We basically get donations from the public. Everybody sees what we're doing, everybody loves what we're doing. But unfortunately not everybody donates to our cause, but I mean there are a lot of people.
We want to clean this up. I mean, we not only do we go out and we clean this up, we take it in on our own dime, and then we got to bring it to the dump.
We don't get enough funding to keep us going on a regular basis. Like, we can literally go out every day, my crew and I, with our 5 boats and come in with 5 boatloads of trash every day. But we don't get funding for that, right? I mean, I can't expect the guys to do it free all the time like I do it, right? So I got to pay wages to the guys, I got to have gas money, I got to have insurance money, I got to have occupational safety money. Because we've turned it into a business so that we could qualify for the grants, there's a lot of money we got to pay into the government just so we can be at this, right? Even when we get donations from the individuals, I mean, every donation we get, we got to pay a percentage of that to the government taxes, right? Because we have got a business started.
There are now 9 confirmed cases of listeriosis linked to a Canada-wide recall of some plant-based beverages. All 9 cases are in Ontario, and 5 of those people are in hospital. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has recalled certain Silk and Great Value brands of oat, almond, and coconut refrigerated beverages, which may be contaminated with listeria. The bacteria can cause a rare but serious illness. Symptoms may start suddenly and include vomiting, nausea, severe headache, constipation, or fever. More severe illness can take as long as 70 days to appear and could lead to brain and blood infections. The 18 recalled products were made by Danone with best before dates up to and including October 4th, 2024. And it's important to note that foods contaminated with listeria do not necessarily look, smell, or taste bad. Well, the pro-Palestinian encampment at McGill University in Montreal is being dismantled after more than 2 months. The operation to clear the site that went up in late April began before dawn this morning. Dozens of police officers in riot gear are patrolling the area. University officials told protesters they were going to be evicted and the encampment dismantled in collaboration with the city, police, and a security firm. Montreal police say one person has been arrested outside the campus gates. Protesters are demanding the university end its investments tied to Israel's military and cut ties with Israeli institutions over its war in Gaza.
To see this process, the old-fashioned traditional way that Inuit would have cleaned polar bear skins and then use them for clothing.
While working to keep Inuit traditions alive, we head to Northwest River just ahead. It's a part of Inuit culture that some say is slipping away. The Labrador Interpretation Centre recently invited the people of Northwest River to come watch a polar bear skin being cleaned using traditional tools. For Mina Campbell, the woman doing the work, it was a new experience as well, but one she says is important to preserve.
Hi, come on in. At it again, yeah. Did you ever see a polar bear skin before? Did you ever see one of these before? Huh? You did? Do you know what it's called? An ulu. Yeah, it's got huge paws. Did you ever see a bear paw? Yeah. You want to touch it?
You want to touch it?
No? Okay, no. So this is a polar bear skin that we, the Interpretation Center through the Rooms Corporation, purchased. I was asked to clean it by the hunter, and I said I don't know how to clean a polar bear skin, and he knew that I clean seal skins. So he said it's the same from what he understood. So I said, well, I'll give it a try. Our plan is for me to clean it. And then I'm going to send it out and get it commercially tanned. And we're going to bring it back and hang it inside the Interpretation Center. Exciting. The kids, we had students from Lake Melville School come yesterday. And I was so impressed when they came in the tent. And I mean, you could smell a little bit, you know. And these days, everything is so fussy about smells and all this. They didn't mind it. Some of them first thought it was smelly, but then they said, I can't smell it no more. I'm used to it now. They want to touch it, and they were very good with it. So I was happy for them to get the opportunity to see something like this, because we don't get polar bear in this area. Now they get the opportunity to see me clean it. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to clean it with my ulu, what I clean sealskins with. It's much more difficult. In this area on Lake Melville, sometimes there's polar bears spotted and things, so it's something that we're familiar with but not used to really. So we don't have a hunt, and Nunatsiavut has a hunt, and so this is one of the polar bears that came from that hunt. Everybody knows about polar bears, but you know, nobody in this area hardly sees one, except for maybe a couple being cleaned in Goose Bay, but it's not done publicly like this. And I think it's important for young people and everybody really to see this process, the old-fashioned traditional way that Inuit would have cleaned polar bear skins and then used them for clothing, well as using ma'ulu. It's a traditional Inuit women's knife, and this is my grandmother's, and I use it for cleaning sealskins. Try to get the fat off as good as I can.
Well, it's very important, especially for Indigenous youth, to kind of reclaim their culture. Even if it is just sitting here and watching somebody scrape fat off of a skin, it's still culture, it's still an experience, it's still connection.
And even now, these days with climate change, and how, you know, the ice is melting faster and is threatening the polar bear. People see and hear things like this, but they don't ever see or experience or hear about this part that people would have done in the past. So pretty. Look at that. Ah.
You see Nanu?
Yeah.
Well, how's this for a sweet collaboration? Little spades and shovels were used at a senior's home on Prince Edward Island, all to build a garden that encourages monarch butterflies to migrate back from Mexico. Chien Desjardins has that story.
It makes them turn into butterflies.
It didn't take long, and it's not physically that big, but it's already making a massive difference to the people here.
They dug it out with round pointed shovels and little spades, and they got them out of the pots and planted them, and it's just wonderful. And it's great to see the children do that.
Wow.
This is Wedgwood Manor's new butterfly garden. It's meant to attract monarchs. Kids from the Dreams Unlimited summer program are here to help plant it and make some new friends at the same time.
We were planting flowers for the seniors. I would like to plant more flowers with them. Maybe we can convince them to come back sometime.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You both come back.
The children are outgoing and friendly, and it was great. It's nice having the two generations together.
So hopefully we'll have some monarchs here.
The Badek Bay Environmental Management Association says the monarch population has been struggling. Loss of habitat is making it hard to survive. This is milkweed in the middle. It's the only native plant monarch caterpillars can eat.
This is a dedicated site just for them, and so hopefully they find it, and then we have a nice successful amount of caterpillars here.
Once they do find it, she says the monarchs will keep coming back each summer. Ernest Hardy hopes these visitors will too.
It was exciting. It reminded you when you were young, and it just made you young at heart. It's just terrific.
Now it's time to wait, but the kids are crossing their fingers all their work pays off.
I hope the butterflies come to get nectar and the bees get nectar for the beehive.
And the seniors could see some butterflies flying across their backyards and could have a little bit of joy when they're walking outside.
The Baddeck Bay Environmental Management Association says caterpillars should start showing up here towards the end of July. They plan to put those in an enclosure inside the manor so seniors can watch them turn into butterflies, and then they will release the monarchs together towards the end of August. Shane Desjardins, CBC News, Summerside.
Okay, so now time for a look at the long-range forecast and looking into the weekend. So how are things shaping up?
It's a bit unsettled, but it doesn't look too bad. We're still definitely going to see some sun. But let's take a look at what's going on over the next couple of days. So this is to start the weekend into Friday. We do have some cloud cover lingering in the morning, and then some showers along southern areas of the island as well. That may work its way north as we head through the evening hours. And then overall, Labrador just looking at some increase in cloud with the chance of showers towards the coast. Same thing for western Labrador into the evening hours as well. And overall, our temperatures, depending on where you are going to start to warm up or back up to about 27 degrees through parts of central. Now, St. John's and most of eastern Newfoundland will stay in the upper teens, low 20s through the day. And that's the story for western Newfoundland as well. Heat really moving back in across Labrador. Happy Valley, Goose Bay likely topping 30 degrees for Friday, and then even towards the coast in Cartwright you'll be sitting around 28. Really mostly towards the coast you'll be sitting at about 28 degrees through the day, and another warm afternoon expected in Lab City as well at about 27. So into Saturday, the first part of the day will likely be a bit rainy, but we should see some clearing skies as the afternoon rolls through. And then more cloud cover will move in towards the evening, and we may see some showers associated with that as well. Overall, unsettled, but not, it still looks like a pretty decent day. Labrador, you're looking at some clearing as well, with some showers moving in late day for those of you in Lab City, but the first half of the day should be lots of sunshine. And overall, temperatures towards the coast will sit in the teens, and then between 21 and 23 degrees for the rest of the big land. And for the island, temperatures again staying very mild, 29 degrees expected through parts of central. Along the south coast as well, still between 22 to 24 degrees. And St. John should hover around 25. Keep in mind, it will be muggy, and it will stay muggy into next week as well. So the long range forecast, a bit of a roller coaster, down to the teens, up to the mid-20s, down to the teens for Sunday. However, we will see some showers in the mix there, and that unsettled weather will continue through Monday, at least the first half of Monday, around 22 degrees through the day. For Central, you're looking at those warm temperatures sticking around. In fact, by Monday, you should be up to the 30-degree mark. And overnight, your temperatures will be in the teens. We'll watch for that. And then for Western Newfoundland, some showers on Sunday, clearing out on Monday, hovering around 25 degrees. Labrador, you're looking at your temperatures staying quite mild. You may see the risk of some thunderstorms on Monday. Going to keep an eye on that one. Same thing for Western Labrador, cooling down. But again, up and down. A little bit of a roller coaster ride. But overall, your temperatures will be into the 20s. Our photo of the day of the gut there, Kitty Vitty. Thank you so much for that. Nice reflections there in the water. Love when it's flat, calm like that. Thank you to Jim for that great shot. If you have any weather photos that you'd like to send to us, you can send them to my Facebook page. But the best place is to email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Classic photo, Jim. Thank you so much for that. And 30 degrees in eastern Labrador. My goodness, hot.
Another hot one.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, that's it for us on this evening. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us. Hope you can join us again tomorrow.
Good night.